Please welcome the Creative Director of Wired and Executive Director of Digital Magazine Development for Condé Nast, Scott Dadich, and the panelists of the Art and Science of App Article Design.
Thank you all. Thanks for having us. And welcome to my friends and colleagues. On the end here, we have Eric Shute, President of Woodwing Software. To his right, we have Gail Towie, the Chief Editorial and Creative Director of Martha Stewart Living. D.W. Pine, the Design Director of Time. And Nick Bogarty, Director of Business Development for Adobe. And I'm Scott Dadich, Executive Director of Editorial Development at Condé Nast. We're going to talk about the art and science of app design and magazine article design on the iPad and the tablet. So to go through that, just to run through the format here, I'm going to show a little bit of work that my colleagues and I are working on at Condé Nast at the moment. DW and Gail are going to show some of the work that they're pioneering both at Martha Stewart and at Time. And then we're just going to open it up to a roundtable conversation. This is meant to be very informal. We'll ask each other questions. We'll bring you guys into this. This is really meant to be your session. Bring to it all of your thoughts and ideas and questions, and we'll make this as productive as possible. So to start off, I'm going to kick into some of the work that we've been doing at Condé Nast. The last 2 weeks, we've actually had quite a busy period. If we could pull up the iPad screen here. There we go. Jerry Tardy and Craig Beestrom, Ken Delago, the team at Golf Digest has really done some tremendous work in bringing out, first, their Golf Digest Hot List about 6 weeks ago, and most recently have launched their digital edition, their full monthly digital edition. And as you can see, it presents great opportunities for instruction, and we can hear a little voiceover here of Jim Flick analyzing the swing. Actually, do we have the audio here? We have video instruction right in the page from David Ledbetter. This is really going to change how service journalism and service magazines, especially like Golf Digest, are able to present information. Obviously, we have the Masters tournament coming up soon, and this is a great way to show the course evolution. Augusta National is one of the most evolved and most changed golf courses in its history. And so Jerry and the team actually have taken that opportunity to go through and plot the progress of the holes over time. I'm just going to zip through here, get into Glamour. Cindy Levy and Geraldine Hessler, the team at Glamour, relaunched their magazine on the Adobe platform just last week and have been doing some really tremendous work there. It's really exciting to see that relaunch. And you can see Kate here looking fabulous. This Dress Your Body section. This is just a sketch from Vanity Fair from the January Justin Bieber issue. They're hard at work on their digital edition at the moment. It hasn't launched yet, but just an idea of what Vanity Fair could look like. This is a lot of fun here. And we get in for video.
Is too much democracy in the culture, not enough democracy in the society.
And music. And of course, we're working in both orientations. And then today, actually, Self has just launched. Lucy Danziger and her team doing some amazing work there. This is with diet, nutrition, going to be a great service component. So just a few of the samples that we're working on at Condé Nast, and with that, I will turn it over to DW.
Thanks. So good morning. I've got about 4 minutes to talk about what the last year has been like in Time Magazine, so I'll try to be quick. So almost a year ago today, we were challenged with taking this 87-year-old iconic red border and this shiny new black border and making them work seamlessly together. And later this afternoon, we'll produce and design our 50th issue of Time Magazine on the iPad. From the start, we knew we had three main challenges to produce this additional weekly experience without a great deal of additional weekly resources. With our first challenge, how are we going to do this every single week? Well, here's a quick shot of how we do it. We have a typical story out of InCopy from InDesign that an art director attaches to a print template using Woodwing software, which helps us go from a traditional print environment into a digital interactive world. Then they also, at the same time, attach it to an iPad layout so that when you change it in one story, it goes into the other one. And then they try to just forget about it. So that process, in this case, this story, which was on Lost, takes about 4 pages in the printed magazine and with photos and sidebars. And this process usually takes a few days for us to complete, of course. After that's done, usually on Wednesday afternoon, we go back to the iPad layout on Wednesday afternoon, and that takes an additional 8 pages with additional video and slideshows, also a vertical format of it. This we actually have to get done in a few hours from Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and we send it to Apple on Thursday morning. So in nearly 1 year, we have produced roughly 2,940 printed pages for the magazine and 10,584 pages in the iPad. Our second challenge, of course, was navigation. After each issue is downloaded, it goes onto a virtual newsstand. So then you can go into each issue, and from there, everything on the cover is clickable. You can always access the scrolling page viewer down below. From there, you can also get the latest headlines that we scrub from time.com. We also have up-to-the-minute real-time news feed of what's going viral on the web. Also have drop-down contents and back and forward buttons like most apps now have nowadays. But really, our main challenge, and most importantly, was to make sure we maintain the storytelling of Time Magazine, particularly our photography. So we created a feature called Close Up, which takes you to an unusual, often quirky place around the world to be able to showcase some of our great photojournalism. We also created a feature called Lightbox. We were noticing that when we looked through thousands and thousands of photographs every single week, and we wanted a place to be able to showcase some of the great work that our photojournalists are doing around the world. This is curated into just 10 photographs. We kind of felt like, well, just because we can give you 1,000 photographs, it's still Time Magazine's mission to be able to curate this for you and give you what is most important for a given week. Again, the page viewer down below can take you to any main feature. And here is where we really want to give the reader an uninterrupted reading experience. And we can also, inside each story, incorporate interactive graphics to enhance our stories and be able to really explain the complicated world out there. We also embed slideshows to be able to showcase all of our photojournalists around the world and give them another platform to be able to showcase their work. We also have embedded tons of video. We have a video team that has produced more than 500 original videos in the past year. Anything from Joe Klein on the steps of the Wisconsin Capitol to behind-the-scenes video of a photo shoot to the horrifying tent cities in Haiti. Other things that we've incorporated is audio right off the cover. That's an exclusive interview with Julian Assange from our editor. We've also done things like zooming in on the cover. This was for our Facebook story to be able to see if you're one of the 1,200 who made the cover of Time Magazine for the Facebook, and people actually went in and were able to see themselves. And speaking of Facebook, we also embed HTML animation this last year to look back at the 83 years of Time Magazine's Person of the Year issue. And we also included a scrollable graphic that provided all of the past POI covers so you can go through that. Other things we've done is we've included the entire first issue of Time Magazine so that you can go through it page by page and read those stories that were in the first issue in 1923. And while we remain, very proud of our past, it's really the future of time that gets us the most excited in however many tablets there end up being. So, thank you.
Hi, everybody. We didn't practice this hookup, so we're hoping this works. Is it showing up? Mm-hmm. Fabulous. So I'm Gail Towie, and we've been working on our digital issue since the beginning of the summer. When we first started getting involved in this, the thing that excited us was the idea of transformation. And so this cover, which is a slideshow of 180 stills, really embodies that. We started on this adventure by doing a special issue for two reasons. One is we really needed that beta test to be able to create, work with the templates, work with the Adobe toolkit, figure out exactly what we needed to do in order to get started and do that outside the regular process of the monthly magazine. We had no idea if it would work or how long it would take. And then also it was our 20th anniversary. So it's kind of a poignant and very cool idea that, especially since I was the first art director for Martha Stewart Living, for Martha and I to be able to bring the magazine into the future after 20 years was pretty exciting. So as I said, transformation is incredibly important, and the idea that you would touch something and have it transform in front of you. And in terms of this Philo story, the pastry opens up and you see the deliciousness inside, and it's really controlled by the reader and the reader's finger, so that sense of intimacy and learning is happening all at the same time. For our peony story, we went up to Martha's farm and got on a cherry picker and took this 180-degree panorama of the farm that makes you feel as though you're sort of hanging in midair looking over it. The other thing, then we did this glossary. When you touch the flower, it gives you more information. That had to be built in HTML. The thing that I really loved about working on this was working with Gentle and Hires, our photographers, who are normally our still photographers, but who also shot video using the Canon 5D. And I think one of the exciting things that we should be talking about is how our still photographers also want to grow into the future and change their business. They know that motion is the next frontier. And what they bring to video is their same identity as photographers, their sense of color and composition, so that, what we wanted to do here is not do it like Martha's television show, and when you have only one camera, you automatically have that intimacy. For Alaska's Wild Wonder, this, to me, the exciting thing about this story is that it really is about the new role of the editor, which I also think we should talk about a little bit more in the panel discussion. Lucinda Scala-Quinn, our editor, researched the story, went to Alaska with Christopher Baker, our photographer. They were on boats and planes and cars and on foot. With one camera, the Canon 5D, again, going back and forth between still and video, and they did an incredible job. And then I want to also show you Everyday Food. We are monthly with Everyday Food now. Again, a moving cover, not quite as sexy as Esquire, obviously, but since Everyday Food is our most functional magazine, it's a digest size, and on the iPad it's actually bigger. So we're excited about this because it looks really luscious and delicious, and it also gives you the opportunity to see how you do things even without words. So you know how you can make this candy bar just by looking at the pictures. You get the idea. In Martha Stewart Living, again, the moving covers, that sense of deliciousness. And we also have, this is our March issue. You get the idea. Again, for food, being able to see the layers and see, you know, we are really a teaching magazine or a how-to magazine. This is really how-to on a different level. We've also had a lot of, whoops, sorry about that, had a lot of fun with stop action. Obviously a cherry cookie. And then for Valentine's Day, the stop actions tend to be about 200 slides, and there's a kind of modern and coolness to it when you're in that stop action mode. And that's that.
Gail, I didn't figure you for a Warrant fan. So let's kick this off. I'd love to hear from you, Nick, and you, Eric, about, we've seen about the art, obviously, the art that we and our colleagues create on the device. How are you guys enabling the science part of this? How are you enabling the tools? How are your companies looking at this from a long-term perspective?
Yeah, so what for us is really important is how can we enable the designers to make great things and really do it in an efficient workflow. So what you see today happening, and we've seen some very nice examples with videos, that videos get more and more integrated. We've seen the Esquire covers, but also inside, like Gail was just showing, how you can really integrate videos as part of the story. So I think that's a big thing. So if you look today at the feature set that is available, you already can do a lot of things. But what you also see happening is that we're also now getting at the level that the customers are going to really ask for the next levels, like to have more levels of interactivity. And what you also see happening more and more, that like HTML widgets are going to be used as like mini applications inside of the issues. And I think that's also a very important trend, and of course that we support with our creation tools to also do that in an efficient way.
Yeah, to me, the science of this, and this sounds really boring, but the science of this is simply enabling from a manufacturing sense the beautiful things that we've seen here, to enable those from a manufacturing sense to be produced efficiently. So that is all the way down to the level of daily newspapers using Adobe tools to produce product that's as beautiful as the things that you see here. The other point I'd like to make is both Eric's company and mine utilize InDesign and utilize the tools that the three of you use every day to produce your print magazines. And I think what's important to keep in mind is both Eric's tools that are used to create the Time example and Adobe's tools to create Martha Stewart's and Condé Nast titles. Those are all sort of extensions to InDesign. So they take Adobe InDesign and they add to it. I think more and more as Adobe releases InDesign, those products will be brought back into InDesign. And the really important thing that enables is that everyone who's involved in the ecosystem of putting together pages in the magazine, this is ad agencies, freelance designers, everyone not on the floor of the magazines, will have these Adobe tools to allow them to leverage these kind of authoring tools. So this is an ad agency producing an interactive page for their advertisers in InDesign without any extensions, and delivering that to a publisher to include in your magazine. And so I think the taking of the extensions of InDesign and bringing it back into the core product that Adobe ships to millions of people is really where we're going to start to see lots and lots of creative experimentation from the entire ecosystem of people who put together a magazine.
Let's dip back into something that you had mentioned, Gail, thinking about the editorial imperatives and how we're assigning, how we're working with photographers. And you touched on it too, DW. The thing I think that we find as we get into publishing on these devices and thinking about a three-dimensional product now is it's much it's much less about the act of design or the using of these tools, if you'll forgive us. It's about the assignment. It's about the thinking and the editorial curation that goes into the making of an experience. Can either of you speak to that?
It's been very exciting for us to be able to work with our still photographers as they change their business. And you know, because we're a magazine business and a television business and a digital business, we felt like we were really in a perfect place to harness all of that expertise as teachers, really, and entertainers in a way, into one place, so that our viewer and our reader has a new experience that combines all of those things. And yet at the same time, I didn't want it to look like our television show. Mm-hmm. You know, you want it to have that sense of personality. And the editors, like in that Alaska story, Lucinda and Christopher went to Alaska and spent a couple of days. Lucinda researched, found Wade, the centerpiece of the video, the fisherman, went out on the boat with them, stayed overnight, then they have to get up early in the morning and start fishing, and the fishing amount of time, because Alaska actually has sustainability written into their constitution, so they start at a particular time. She found other people to interview who are monitoring, the Native Americans who are monitoring the Copper River. Then she cooked the salmon and did the recipes. And then when she got home, she wrote the script, did the voiceover, sat with our editor. You know, so it's really, it's if you think of it as just an incredibly expansive opportunity for our editors and our designers, who have a whole new set of tools to work with to tell the story and tell different parts of the stories in the way that the story needs to be told. So you're using the right tools for the right expression. So it's a huge opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed the same thing. I mean, just the creative process, and either having photographers come in, or even illustrators. I'm sure you guys get this mm-hmm. too, where they just are so excited to have this whole new tool that they can do. I mean, they maybe have never been involved in animation before, but they'll just send you something and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And it's just exciting to watch them. I mean, they really. I felt this as a designer. You know, having been in the print world for 20 years, it's like just being able to have this new tool to be able to, it still made the packaging of what I do, news, important, and to be able to explain the world. So, I don't know, every day it surprises me of what somebody just does on their own, and the opportunities are so grand that really there's no barrier to what you can kind of create. So it's been unbelievably exciting.
How early are you making these considerations? Obviously, you're both working on, and Gail, you're working a year ahead of time at some point. How do you juggle all this, that now you're thinking in multiple dimensions, you're not only assigning photo shoots, you're storyboarding them and working on script development. How does all this get managed?
I sometimes feel like the things are a little crazy right now, because everybody's trying to do everything. In my opinion, we did something like 23 videos in the March issue. That's way too much. We really have to calm down here. So it's such an exciting opportunity that everybody's trying everything. Right. We're doing about 15 videos in every month of everyday food. And I forgot to mention that we decided to lock to the vertical. I know you guys are doing horizontal and vertical. It's a lot of work to do all of that layout. And the team just decided we'd rather spend our time making more videos than worrying about seeing the layouts in two different dimensions.
And for us, I mean, since it's a weekly publication that's based on the news, I mean, and we close within a few hours after we close the regular magazine, we have to pick our battles. We can't plan for things too far in advance. So, visually, we really have to. We can do some things in advance, but not a lot. So things have to be decided very quickly. But it's true, like Gail said, it's like when we first got into it, we were doing all this stuff, and it's like, hold on, I mean, the reality kind of hits. And in the end, I mean, like I was presenting, I mean, for the time reader, I mean, it's still important for us to have our, the story and just an uninterrupted reading experience. We still felt like just because we can do all of these bells and whistles and all this grand stuff, which is spectacular. I mean, I look in awe at, at what, a lot of what Scott's been able to do at Condé Nast and Gale and the Esquire stuff we saw before we came in here. For time, I mean, those things will be incorporated in as we move along here and the landscape kind of shakes out. But we also find that it's just so important to just keep the, the bone structure of time, the great storytelling, and the great photojournalism. So we actually have to resist quite a bit, and that's why with this light box that we created, just the 10 photographs, I mean, the photos that still make it onto the cutting room floor are amazing, and you kind of wish people could see it, and we put it up on our website, of course. But we felt like for the iPad, it's still, the beauty of course, a magazine and this product is it has a period at the end. You feel like, all right, I've completed something, and this is why, it's still nice to always remind ourselves to be curators of what we do.
I want to direct this at you, Eric, and then a follow-up from Nick. Obviously, we're now in a software development environment where the tools are revolving in a rapid pace. Nick, you had mentioned InDesign as a core piece of this platform. We as designers are sort of used to an 18-month, 20-month product cycle on tools like this. Clearly, this is all moving a lot faster than that, and the experiences and the feedback that you're getting from folks like us has got to be putting you in a mind frame of a more rapid deployment, improvement of tools, trying to keep up with the technology. How are you guys handling that, and how does that shake out for product development?
Yeah, well, so like it is crazy times for the publishers, it's also crazy times for us. So when we started all of this, we thought it was crazy. Well, it's only getting crazier. So we get a lot of requests getting in, but it's also very excited because really you see something and there's really something happening. So it's also very excited to work on the tools to enable those things and really try to help and make it easier. And so one of the big challenges that currently are on the table is how to support all the new upcoming devices. So so it's very exciting. Also, it brings a lot of energy to do tools. So we have roughly like every other month an update of our creation tools to be able to quickly react to the market and quickly if great new ideas, concepts come up, that we also can actually offer a way to produce that efficiently and also to start supporting new devices when they hit the market.
Yeah, with Adobe, I mean, this is the software development to keep up with demands of our customers who are publishers and also your readers has totally changed how Adobe does software development. In the past, we bundle up Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign and go to a publisher every 18 months and say, here it is, and we'll see you in 18 months, and we go away. What we're doing now with the digital publishing suite, which is these tools that publishers use to create versions of their magazines on mobile devices, is monthly delivery of software. So at the beginning of every month, all of our engineers sit down in a room and we prioritize all of the demands of our customers, of publishers. We say, are there commonalities here, and what can we tackle in a month? And within that period, we work for 3 very intense and stressful weeks, and then at the end of that, we deliver an update. And they're incremental updates, but I don't think there's any way that we can possibly plan with the rapid rate of development in this industry and also with the devices that Eric talked about. I don't think there's any way that we can do it in any other fashion. I know we can't wait for a year. We can't wait for 18 months, certainly. On the device side, we're also really, really interested in a competitive marketplace for magazine publishers to sell their magazines to. And this means leveraging Adobe's experience in producing run times, which just means the thing on devices that will run our viewer to as many devices as magazine publishers can sell their content to. It's really important for us.
Great. Well, we have a few minutes left. I want to make sure to get your questions and bring you into the conversation. Do we have some microphones floating around? Anybody? One back there. There we go.
I have a, oh, wow, I have a,
Welcome.
I'm going to make sure you're all awake, apparently. I have a quick question about the editorial role. So not everybody is going to be spectacular at every single facet that you just described in terms of the scripting, the art direct, I mean, everything? Is that a rational expectation for editorial people to be able to accomplish?
Well, I've found, we have a morning meeting, 10 o'clock every morning for time, and it's amazing that every single morning we not only, we lead off with what's going on time.com, so the digital part is actually in the forefront. That's been happening for the last 4 or 5 years. In the last year, the next conversation is, what are we doing on the iPad? And this probably starts on Monday and goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we found that, like what Gail was talking about, I mean, you would be surprised at what talents people do have that they don't really come to the forefront because, particularly at a place like Time, things are fairly structured. When you open it up, and people are just like you were saying, they just go off and they do their own reporting. And I mean, I'll go write a story, or I mean, some of our great. We just started a blog on Monday from our photo team led by Kira Pollack. And it's amazing. I mean, a daily kind of blog from our photographers where they've gone out, they've done an interview. I mean, you should check it out. It's really, really, it's heartwarming, the work that they're doing. And it's a daily kind of update that is amazing that they just created on their own, and they're doing it on their own time, on their weekends, and just interviewing photographers and just doing great work. So I would think you would be surprised at what kind of talents are out there. I don't know.
A lot, because we have a television show, a lot of our editors are really comfortable being on TV, so that process of producing something for video was pretty much second nature to us when we started. But not every story can be an Alaska story. I mean, you can't afford it, number one, but there's a lot of how-to video that we're doing, and where some of the chefs or the cooks were not, for instance, really comfortable in front of the camera, in which case we just did the video of, what was happening on a kind of tabletop sense and just shooting the steps. But we're going to try, and we've begun to try shooting people as they're talking as well. Then some people really don't want to do it unless they have hair and makeup. I mean, it gets, it evolves. But that's the cool thing. We're at this early stage now where everybody's experimenting, and so you don't feel badly about doing something wrong because everybody's doing something wrong and everybody's doing something right, and you're looking around for those successes and learning from each other.
I mean, it's also important to note, too, and I think Nick and Eric touched on this, was that the tool that we use and Gail uses and Scott uses is a tool that we've been using as print designers for quite a while. These two companies and others have been able to provide us with the tools to be able to take what we've been doing on a regular basis and make it more interactive. So it's actually, that wasn't a huge leap for us. We still felt comfortable in the environment. I have 5 art directors. It's the same art directors that did Time magazine on a weekly basis, the same ones that do the iPad version on a Wednesday and Thursday morning. So same stories.
And it's so interesting, that exchange between television and video. Our videos that have been running in the magazine are running on TV as well, because the quality of the video is just as good as the quality that's being produced in a field piece for the television show. So that's also an exciting opportunity for us to be able to market our magazine through the television show by using these same tools as well.
It's time for 1 or 2 more. In the back there?
Yeah, hi. I had a question for Adobe and Woodwing about the development roadmap. So one part of that is whether there's anything in the roadmap to address file size, which is something that people talk about quite a bit in the App Store. Almost half gigabyte files for a single issue of the magazine. And the other thing is whether on the roadmaps, things like using the accelerometer, GPS, and so on, where that is, are those kinds of things that you could handle with widgets and Woodwing? Does Adobe have a way for people to start, going a little bit beyond just the design of the pages and video and stuff like that, to actually use the device and reach out into the kind of wider world of technology a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the device capabilities, I think you can assume that we'll address and integrate with whatever capabilities on the device that would be useful for publishers. In terms of file size, there's two ways to address this, and honestly, I think that this is a temporary issue. The two ways to address it are just to reduce the file size in the first place. And there's two ways you can do that. One, as designers, you can include less assets, less videos in the file, for instance. The second is the format of the file itself can be compressed over time by supporting different things. The second way to address it is just to address this via progressive downloads, where you're basically downloading to the device bits of the file, and a user can read them as they come down. So honestly, there's very clear and obvious ways to address that issue, and I think those issues will be not even brought up in a couple of months, I would assume.
Yeah, there's one thing I would like to add to that is a lot of the device features, like working with the accelerometer. There's a lot of those things you can already do today just using HTML widgets. And I think if you look what you want to do, you will see that you want to do something unique. So it's not something it's just a standard feature of the app and everybody will have the same kind of feature, that the content will move the same way. So really it will require some HTML, JavaScript apps to really use those features, which is already possible today.
Well, this has been terrific. Thank you guys so very much. Thank you all. We'll all be around afterwards if you want to find us for additional questions, but thanks a bunch for having us.
Thank you.